onto the women's preview now. A pretty similar. Let me have a look. They've got the same climb, Côte de la Roche-au-Faucon. It's 140k, so it's pretty good length for the women's races that we'll normally see. It goes from Bastogne to Liège, so they still call it Liège Bastogne Liège, but they just do the second half of the race, it seems. How much climbing? It's about 2,140 meters, so half the climbing of the men's race. But yeah, same finale, which I like. So I wonder with that finale what Annemiek van Vleuten is going to do. She's got the Redoute with 39 Ks to go, same as the men's race. I mean, what would you do if you were Van Vleuten here, Benji, in the European Champs jersey? You tried at Fleche with 20 Ks to go and you got marked out. Would you be attacking earlier than the Roche-au-Faucon?
Well, she's a bit of a cyclist that just hammers it the moment that the road goes uphill. I think that waiting till Roche-au-Faucon might not be ideal because then it's hard to put in the attrition damage throughout the race itself on the competitors. I think her strength is that she can make that same attack multiple times in a race. We saw it in Amstel that she did it multiple times as well. It just didn't do the damage she was hoping for. And I think the only strategy she can do is relatively similar. Côte de la Redoute already hammer it up that climb, and then Roche-au-Faucon try to do the same. But the race situation can also be very different. I think 2 years ago, we had Van Vleuten ending up winning here, but the year after, we had a very different race situation early on because a group got away with riders from every team, basically, and that caused the group behind, including the likes of Van Vleuten with some other favorites in there, to just not care about the race anymore. And that front group went ahead and battled for the victory. And eventually you had Dijknen that ended up going solo from that group and Brown chasing that down. So it can be a very different race situation depending on if a group gets away with riders from every team and so forth. And it's going to be interesting to see how Trek and SD Works play this. I think that this might be a pretty tactical race in the same way that we saw Fleche being ridden in the last 30-ish kilometers with Trek trying to get one rider up the road, another rider up the road, another rider up the road. Every single time when they get caught, another rider up the road to kind of reduce the firepower of SD Works because that's their numerical advantage. How do you see that competition between SD Works and Trek going on this race?
Yeah, I think they're going to try the same thing, one would think, with Ruth Winder and Cinderbrand. Yeah, there's no Dijknen. They got Van Dijk as well. I think SD Works made a few mistakes at Fleche. Van der Breggen mentioned that. And they didn't really cost them because Fleche just always comes down to the Mur and Van der Breggen dominated. But Liège, you do get punished a little bit more for those mistakes. I think SD Works, they got obviously Van der Breggen, they got Vollering, Mulman, Vandenbroek, Black, Cecchini, Neve Fisher, Black. Very, very strong team. Maybe have a couple of other riders that aren't named yet. I don't know, honestly. I don't really know what they're going to do. I think it's going to be following Van Vleuten, who's Movistar's leader, early. And we haven't really seen SD Works, Benji, actually throwing riders up the road, except for Vandenbroek, Black at Strade, marking Elisa Longo-Borghini. Yeah, I think... Who do you think they're going to ride for? Van der Breggen, Vollering, or are they going to have a two-leader strategy?
I'd go for a two-leader strategy here. We saw in Amstel that Van der Breggen was not doing the way she wanted to go, I think, on a level-wise. I think she also kind of wanted to ride for Vollering that day. But in Fleche, we saw the exact opposite. And that forced Vollering into a domestique position in the last 20-ish kilometers. Because, well, of that strategy mistake we spoke about on the recap podcast of that reduced their numerical advantage. So if Trek can do that to SD Works, then they're going to have to choose between the two. But outside of that, I dare to... I'm going to start early with my picks, but my favorite for this race is Demi Vollering. And the reason that Demi is my favorite is that I believe she has the capabilities of following everybody that basically launched in this race. And I think she has a sprint to win this if this comes down to a reduced group at the finish line. She also has the capabilities of riding away and soloing. So yeah, she's a bit of an all-rounder in that aspect. And I think that a lot of her benefit is the fact that she's at SD Works, because we know that their strategy is if somebody's up the road for them, then they're going to start blocking the pacing in the second group. And that seemed to work out the majority of times that they do it. But let's be real, the last few races, they haven't been at their extreme best in that strategy-wise. And I think that so far this season, this women's cycling industry has not been dominated as much by SD Works as we probably thought it would at the start of the season.
No.
And it's not surprising per se, but it's noticeable, it's observable. And I think that they got to keep in mind that their strategies need to be good still, and that they need to try and keep that numerical advantage onto their competitors, because that is their strength, and that is the way that they have a chance of winning as many races as they can. And I think that it's going to work out on Liège, because it's a difficult parkour, but it's also not the parkour where I'd say that Van Vleuten would just ride away. That's not what I see happening here, but I could be very wrong on that. Let's be clear. No Diagnan. What has she been up to? Because I feel like she hasn't been anywhere in races recently, and I don't know why.
Yeah, she skipped the Ardennes. Has she been unwell? I'm probably missing some news. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. She won Liège last year from a solo. Maybe she's not on the start list yet, but I'm trying to look it up. I feel like I'm missing something that I should know. But yeah, she won a solo last year. Before it was Van Vleuten, and then it was Van der Breggen 2 years in a row, all solo moves. So we haven't had a reduced bunch sprint at Liège Women's. So I think it's going to be a solo as well, and Benji's probably right. It'll be one of those riders, and I'm going with Niewiadoma, Benji. I think she's going to be I think these climbs suit her more than the Mur. She was strongest in my view on the Cowberg. I think she's been so consistent at the moment. Second at Fleche, second at Dwaalstoer, and then in principle, in my view, second at Amstel in those sort of races. So I think Niewiadoma is a real chance, and I like her for the race. Trek not having Diagnan makes a big... It's weird, Benji. No Diagnan, no Brown on Bike Exchange, at least on the thing I'm looking
Brown
at.
Either. Okay.
No. 1 and 2 last year. So Diagnan went solo. Trek were 1-2ing. They had Van Dijk and Longoborghini, and then they sent Diagnan. I think that she did that in other races too. Plouet as well. She did that when she was with the other British rider. And yeah, second last year was Brown chasing that Diagnan move, and she was chasing her really well. Not at Liège either. Very strange.
Yeah, but I think that one thing noticeable with Bike Exchange this Ardennes so far is that in, I think, Amstel, it was Spratt that was extremely strong. Spratt was in that front group, ended up fourth in that race, and Spratt was also the better rider on Fleche. And I think Spratt might be like a bit of an outsider that everybody is kind of looking over, because she's not at one of the teams that is fairly dominant here. So I believe that Amanda Spratt can top 5 this race. I just think that it's going to be difficult for her to win an LBL, for example, and that's where I see the weakness for her. Yeah, kind of true.
She's not the best climber on these short climbs, and she's not the quickest sprinter ever, it seems, in a group, so it makes it really hard. And they don't generally go for a solo long move either, those two. So they're the leaders we mentioned. You know, theoretically, Longoborghini, Trek, Van Vleuten, Movistar, Niewiadoma, Canyon SRAM, Spratt, Bike Exchange, Vos, Team Jumbo-Visma, Ludwig, FDJ, Paladin and Rujakers for Liv, Lippert, Lebu, Mackay, Team DSM, Vollering, Van der Breggen, SD Works, and probably Magnaldi for Theraticid.
Yeah.
Trying to look for some other outsiders. Stevens, Faulkner, at Team Tibco. Gigante is on the start list, but I'm pretty sure she broke her collarbone or something.
Yeah, collarbone,
Fleche.
elbow, and something else.
Yeah.
So not ideal.
So don't think she's starting. And drops have got Jocelyn Loudon rather, and Danny Christmas. She came 5th at Brabantse Pale. So I think Loudon for a top 10 is a really good shout for Drops Lacole. And got to shout out the Olga Zabelinskaya at Kogas Metla Pro Cycling Team. She's a vet. She's 40 and pretty sure that's right. I remember her name. She came 3rd in the Olympic Games in 2012 and she's like a TT specialist. And she seems to have been racing in Turkey, but I think she started racing. She took a 5-year absence in the 2000s, but yeah, great time trialist and just cool to see her, I guess, or funny to see her on the start list. Although I think she's been suspended before. That was a quick run through of the favourites. There's no betting market for the women's race, so I don't really know. We're having to make it up ourselves. Marianne Vos, Benji. Let's talk about her. First at Amstel, first at Genfavelhem, second at Trofeo Alfredo Binder, which is quite a hilly race, circuit hilly race, but shallow gradient climbs, not the steeper climbs we have here, like the Côte de la Rochefoucauld. Do you think she's getting spat too much on that climb, Rochefoucauld, to even be close with a reduced bunch sprint if it came down to it?
I think she's going to have a really tough time sticking with the better punchers in this peloton. I think that her benefit would be, let's say that they're in a situation where she ends up dropping on the last hill. Well, then she needs to hope that either SD Works or Trek missed the split, because then those can pace in the second group. If those two teams are at the front group, then she has to do it alone because everybody else will be looking at her since she has the better sprint in that chasing group. And I think that it's very unlikely that she's going to be a part of the group that gets away on Rochefoucauld. So she's likely going to be in the chasing group, and it's going to have to be an ideal situation for that group to come back because, they've got that descent. It's basically difficult to come back to. So I don't think she's going to win this race. I think it's just a bit too hard, even though with Marianne Vos, I don't want to dare to say that ever. But I think it's not happening this time around. Just overall, I think that this could go many ways, depending on the way the race is ridden. But I think that we've seen so far that certain names are the strongest ones on these punchy finishes. Well, punchy climbs and then the finishes after it. And you named names already. Niewiadoma, for example, Elisa Longo-Borghini, Vollering, Van der Breggen could also be in that group on paper. Van Vleuten definitely could be part of that action. All these riders could be in a 5-man women group after that. Rochefoucauld, and if that is the case, then it could go anywhere. And from a 5-women group, then you can have one rider that slips away in a bit of an attack and they'll look at each other. But you can also have a situation where it actually ends up in a 5-women sprint. And if that is the case, then it could go.
I think less likely.
Riders. Yeah,
because Van der Breggen won't back her sprint. Vollering will.
Yeah,
but Van der Breggen will re-attack. Van Vleuten, if she has any opportunity, if she's with a group after Rochefoucauld, she'll go on the Boncel straight after again. Yeah. She'll try and split it, and she'd rather attack full gas there, maybe drop herself, than I think go to the finish with the group. Same with Anna van der Breggen. Vollering's got that kick. Vos, if she was there, same. She'd back her sprint. Niewiadoma, I think, would try as well. Longo-Borghini, no idea what she'll do. I think FDJ with Cavalli and Ludwig. The problem with Ludwig, as we said, not the quickest on the climb or in the sprint, just very consistent. But to win the race, they'd need a slow race and to coax Marta Cavalli over the climbs and then hope she was the quickest in the group. But even then, Vollering's probably slightly quicker than her as well. Honestly, I'm just seeing Mullman pacing super hard on Redoute or Rochefoucauld and setting up one of Van der Breggen
Yeah, but
or inadvertently Van Vleuten.
isn't that dangerous again? Because she did it in Fleche Wallonne and it opened
Yeah,
up a can
for
of
sure.
worms for Trek to open up and Roofwinder to start attacking. And I think if they go too early, then it's going to be troublesome. I think the ideal situation for SD Works is trying to keep the race relatively controlled until Latitude and then try and keep that climb relatively controlled as well. Try and get Moman Passio over that climb
True.
so she can do the work after the climb and make sure that we don't have a situation where Roofwinder is off going on our jolly adventure on the front of the race. So I think,
yeah,
strategic-wise, it's going to be a very interesting race, and I'm looking forward to it.
Or that's a good point. They are not going to want a breakaway containing riders from Movistar, Trek, Canyon SRAM, or Jumbo Visma in Liège this weekend. SD Works, we're not repeating what happened at Fleche, where we're on the back foot all day, got a bit messy. As Benji said, exactly. I think they're going to want to control it a bit more.
Can
and you're
they
right.
counter?
You want to keep it tight.
Yeah.
And then attack with Van der Breggen and then force really hard decisions from Van Vleuten, who have to spend their bickies themselves to bring her back with Vollering in the wheels. Sorry, go on, Benji.
Can they counter that by, for example, getting a Fisher Black in the breakaway early on to
Or Van den Broek
do
Black.
the opposite? Yep.
Yep.
That's similar
They could.
situation.
But they haven't been doing that
this
year as much. So I don't know. I actually, maybe one of them, need Fisher Black or Cicchini, maybe. But did I put you on the spot, Benji? You picked Vollering. That's right. Who did I pick?
I don't remember.
Niewiadoma.
Yeah.
Long shots. Let's go for a long shot. It's hard with the women's races to go for long shots, to be honest. I'm going with Rujakers.
Okay. That's actually not a bad one because she's been very active so far.
She's a good climber.
I'm going to go for a long shot. Ooh, this is hard. I
pick Loudon on drops, Lacole. We're contractually obliged to.
Okay, I will. There we go. She will win the race.
Satisfy the sponsors. She actually could. She came fifth in Brabant Chapelle. Like,
but
it's a long shot.
I think
go.
I think she rode it to be in the top 5 there. I still think that in the last kilometer there, she basically chose to ride the pace of the riders that were away and basically rode them till the line and decided not to even try and test her sprint against the others. Perhaps she knows that she wouldn't make it. That's an option. But I also think it's because, I don't know. I know that before the last hill, she was in the same group and she was pacing for the others. So.
Oh, no, I see what you mean. Yeah, I see what you mean. She just wanted top 5 rather than getting caught. Yeah. Anyway, it's just very strong. That was in a group with Vollering, Balsamo, Thomas. Hold on.
What?
Balsamo's not hill. It's probably too hilly for her over 2,000 meters climb. She is a sprinty girl, not really a climby sprinty girl, I wouldn't say.
Correct.
She's, more quick than climby. Anyway, that was our Liège Bastogne Liège women's preview. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll have highlights of the race straight afterward. My women's highlight videos are for some reason, well, not for some reason, like,
because they're surprised. Great, man.
Well, I know that, but 200,000 views on Amstel. I mean, even the most ardent people who like my content wouldn't have guessed that. But anyway, it's great. And Fleche over 50K is awesome to see too. There's obviously interest there. But we'll see you with the recap on Sunday after the race. Ciao.